So basically, today we're going to speak about meteorites. You know, like the debris that comes through the atmosphere and lands on like a planet or a moon or something. Right?
Did they give you that bad?
So it's not meteorites.
No. So it's esports meteorites, I think.
Oh, meteorites.
That's what my notes are on, anyway.
Well, I've spent 4 hours today gathering information on meteorites, and I came to the conclusion that a meteorite crashing into Earth would actually save esports because it would just kill it off, and then we'd all be free.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, that's my magical intro. I spent a good 3 minutes on the bog today thinking of that one.
Unreal. How you doing today, mate? You okay?
All good. Just passed my way through a Newzoo report, which actually ties into what we wanted to discuss perfectly anyway. So I wouldn't say I feel the most equipped I've ever been for a discussion like this, but I've got enough going, and I can kind of talk, so I can make it seem like I know what I'm on about, if nothing else, right?
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited for this one. Like I said, it's a pretty complex topic. So it'll just be a case of feeling our way through it. I think we've both got a decent enough understanding of it, and hopefully we can offer some insight. It's the whole point, isn't it? So
it is, yeah. Not just me being angry all the time and stuff like that. So you have you wanted to give a breakdown of exactly what meteorites are and stuff, right?
Yeah,
to give people a full understanding of what we're referring to.
Yeah, so I'll do that. I'll basically just go through what meteorites are, especially as it pertains to esports, kind of use traditional sport parallels and just where esports stands in comparison to traditional sports, because I think it's really interesting, and there are a lot of very unique challenges to esports. Meteorites generally, obviously get into what it is in a second, have moved a lot slower than companies like Newzoo anticipated a few years ago, which we'll get into. But yeah, I guess just to start, you can think of meteorites for the purposes of this conversation as so basically sports competitions sign exclusive agreements to broadcast via a network or a platform. So traditionally you've got linear TV companies like ITV, for example, in the UK, or CBS in the US. Now obviously you've got, this is obviously pertinent to esports, you've got streaming platforms like YouTube and Twitch. If you think for TV, something like the Champions League, so BT Sport, at least in the UK, BT Sport broadcast the Champions League. They've just penned last year a deal for $1.5 billion from, that's only for 4 years as well. So 2021 to 2024, $1.5 billion. Compare that to, and this isn't necessarily, it's obviously esports is going to be a lot less. I'm not comparing it to take the piss or anything like that. I'm just giving a kind of overview. Activision Blizzard signed a deal with YouTube to broadcast exclusively the Overwatch League, the Call of Duty League, and I think Hearthstone esports. Now, I saw somewhere, I think initial reports were saying it was basically worth $160 million. But then I seen something else just earlier saying that it's probably close to 90.
And the nuance there as well is cloud and infrastructure dealings as well there. So it's
right, okay.
Or the Google servers.
Interesting.
So it to me at the time, and I think maybe someone like Richard Lewis said it at the time as well, it seemed like the esports stuff was just chucked in there as well to try and sweeten the deal even more.
Right, interesting.
Yeah, I think it's the Google Cloud servers or something on those lines will be utilised by Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, that's the real business has been done there. The real money has been caught.
Oh, you can have COD and Overwatch as well, yeah.
Yeah, the little fucking, just the peanuts, just throw them the peanuts. Yeah, so that's what meteorites are. It's basically exclusive broadcasts of sport. And I guess if you go to traditional sport, for example, there's obviously the FA in football and FIFA, but nobody owns the IP of football. Nobody owns football. The sport itself is in the public domain, whereas in esports, you've got, this is kind of the elephant in the room. I remember might have been somebody at Astralis once said this to me, it's the elephant in the room. It's no one wants to talk about it, but publishers own I guess people do want to talk about it, but publishers own the IP, the underlying IP for esports. So obviously you've got Riot Games that own League of Legends. They dictate where League of Legends goes. Now that's a bit different because they also dictate where the esports scene goes. So like they've kind of got it nailed, and the same thing with Valorant. Like they're doing it pretty well. But the fact that publishers own the underlying IP presents like loads of convoluted like intellectual property issues with so when you're cutting deals for broadcasting of like tournaments of leagues and stuff like that, you've got to consider the publishers, you've got to consider the broadcaster, so either the streamer like Twitch or the linear broadcaster like in I think TV2 in Denmark show Counter-Strike. So you've got to consider them, you've got to consider the tournament organizer, and you've got to consider the teams. So it's like, I think in any deal, you might know more about this than I do because I couldn't find too much on this, but the publisher presumably would take a big cut from any like broadcast deal. Presumably,
I've never seen it spoken about publicly when they announce the broadcast deals. It seems like with the CS:GO, like Valve doesn't give a shit, right? So like it's up to whoever to host the events. I don't think you really need Valve approval. They only have a say in like their events, which are the majors. So I imagine the difference between League of Legends and CS:GO esports and the broadcast deals that are done there. I imagine there is a difference there in how it's done because Riot obviously wants full control over everything. So yeah, and obviously they run their own events. It's a tricky one, and that's part of the problem with trying to look at esports as a whole. You know what I mean? Like it's not often we talk about sports as a whole. We will when we're referring to them all here, but like we'll not say as one rule that's applicable throughout the entire thing. You know, so like that adds an extra
100%.
nuance. You know, and there was that huge Meteorites deal. I still hear Meteorites every time I say Meteorites. Where like it was Huya, I think, and Riot Games, where it was probably like I can't even remember how much, but it was in the hundreds of millions, wasn't it?
It was like $220 million or something like
for
that.
like Worlds and stuff, right? So like, it's insane for if you own the whole IP. I'm sure you can maybe do a better deal than you can if you're Blast or something, and you go to like 4 CS tournaments a year or something.
Exactly, I think that's true, and I think like whatever happens, there are going to be complicated like law things. I'm obviously not a fucking lawyer; it bores me to death. But like, there'll be a lot of complicated things to, like I said, to do with the intellectual property and stuff like that. And what you said about like esports is fractured. That's my next point. Is like the vast majority of esports titles don't have the following to command like a big media rights package. So League of Legends can in regions like China, but like most can't. So like it's esports is kind of deceptively fractured in that it's better to think of them different titles as different sports as opposed to esports being this one thing, which is how most people kind of conceptualize it. So like if you think, so you'd have to take one esport at a time. So, Overwatch, can we crack a deal to be broadcast on, I don't know, pretend they weren't involved in a deal with the CDL and Hearthstone. Like if they were just on their own and they wanted to do a deal with YouTube or with bloody, I don't know, ITV in the UK, something, like it'd be so much harder and they'd get like obviously nowhere near as much money. It's like broadcasters probably wouldn't be interested, most of them, at this point because it's just too small. So, and we mentioned this in another video. I wanted to mention this when we spoke about the potential for like an Olympic style competition where you bundle different titles together and sell that to a broadcaster. But that just wouldn't work. Like that's what's been pitched by some like law firms and things like that in different white papers. But yeah, it just wouldn't work. Like esports fans wouldn't give a shit, would they?
No, like trying to appeal to a 14-year-old lass who really from China who loves League of Legends and a 35-year-old former Navy SEAL in America who loves COD. Like they're two very different demographics, and trying to bundle.
100%.
Obviously, you're never going to bundle those titles together because Riot and Activision Blizzard wouldn't play nice like that. But I wouldn't imagine so at least. But if you put two titles together like that, I don't know what the common denominator viewer is there, and I don't know where the baseline is that would watch throughout an entire event and know what's going on and enjoy what's going on and be able to root for a specific player or team. I think it's quite low. And obviously, we see with Activision Blizzard they can do bundle deals. And I don't know if StarCraft's involved in that Google deal as well. They might have just chucked some of that in there as well. But like that's where they can unlock some value. But again, it's so fractured among those titles. I don't think many people who watch Overwatch are going to watch COD. And the ones that do, I imagine, are, say, Envy fans who want to watch Optic Texas and Dallas Fuel because they love the community and they're part of it and they're rooting for the team, as opposed to the game. It's almost like the game doesn't matter in that sense. And that's not that's not a good selling point when you're trying to basically sell what like people watching the game. It's not handy.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you were just talking about it, man, like at first, obviously, I just said that it wouldn't work, but I would actually love to just see how it went, just to see how they did it. They wouldn't, obviously, you'd have to test it before you sold it to like a broadcaster or something like that. But I think it would be intriguing. But I think we said this in another video. I think you said that like you'd watch it out of morbid curiosity, but like would it grab you? I don't know. I think I'd like it, because I like different esports and I like keeping an eye on them all. But like most people, I don't think really care. And like you said,
see it with the Commonwealth soon, right? As well.
Oh yeah, when's that next year?
This year, I believe it like runs alongside or just before the Commonwealth Games. Whenever that is, if that is next year, I don't know. I don't really keep up to date with the Commonwealth Games, to be honest. But like they're doing the whole national team thing again, which is just not where esports is at. It's like they're not meeting esports where it's at all. They're taking it, they'll put it on BBC Three or iPlayer or something.
I was going to say, yeah. So who are the tournament organisers that do that? Because I remember that there was like an Overwatch World Cup or something, wasn't there?
Yeah, so Overwatch World Cup, so that would have been, I suppose, Blizzard and then whoever they drafted in to do white label services there. But the Commonwealth is done in partnership with the Global Esports Federation, which is Tencent, right? Which owns 100% of Riot, bearing in mind, but and basically 50% of everything else in the world. Half of me, my surname is now Tencent. I've just been bought out, just realised. I throw myself off, but also British Esports Association helping that as well. But like Chester King, they've changed from the association now, haven't they, to the federation?
Oh right, oh yeah, they did. I saw that recently.
So we'll just call it British Esports. Yeah, they're involved in it as well, and they host like I guess like college and university type events and stuff. So I assume they would have some role to play there, because it's not going to be massively intensive, I don't think, to bang on an event there, because I don't think there'll be a live viewership. I wouldn't imagine. I don't know why you come to the UK and host an esports event, if so. Because besides ESL One Birmingham and the Face It London Major, it's pretty abysmal here as a rule.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Despite all of the esports stadiums popping up all over the country. Do you remember when that started happening? Well, I mean, I guess it's still happening.
Stadiums, don't they? But
50-seat venues.
Well, like Belongs are cool. I understand them, and they serve a different purpose. They're like grassroots stuff.
Oh yeah,
What the venues, especially in America, where it was like the Fusion Arena and what's being built in Toronto by Overactive Media, they're not specialist esports venues at all. They're just like performance venues where there'll be musical acts and everything along those lines, and then there'll also be esports there. And that makes the most sense, because if you're just sealing it off just for esports anyway, mate, you're gonna host one event every 2-3 months and you're going to run out of cash very fucking quickly. Like, you're not going to be able to afford to keep the lights on, So, like, those venues are a madness. But I don't know. They're just branding it as esports to, I guess, make it seem to shareholders like esports is bigger and there's more demand than what there actually is. Which is besides the point of Meteorites, of course.
Yeah. But I was going to talk about one more issue that esports media rights has that other kind of traditional sports don't, and then we can get into the Newzoo thing if you want.
Okay.
So basically, esports fans' habits are obviously very entrenched. They're quite young as well, but like more so, they're just used to consuming everything for free, essentially. So like, how do you grab somebody that's been consuming everything for free on Twitch and YouTube, and then ask them to start paying for stuff? Like, it's a difficult challenge to overcome.
That goes into the age-old debate of whether putting some things behind a paywall would work. So if you can watch, you get the full broadcast for free, 720p, and you can get 1080p or 4K and extra shoulder content and maybe individual feeds of players and stuff. If you could choose that in CSGO and just watch Simple the entire time for a tenner a month.
It's a really good idea, actually. That's a really good idea.
I'm pretty sure like Tommy and Adam Apicella and stuff have discussed it quite a lot when the topic comes up, like once a year, really, like pay-per-view in esports, and there's never a consensus reached as to what is best. And I trust like Apicella a lot when it comes to this stuff, and I'm pretty sure he's against it, and he's quite big on co-streaming, if I remember correctly. So maybe co-streaming's more the way to go.
Co-streaming. What do you mean by that, mate? Say more about that.
So co-streaming, where they get someone completely irrelevant to the esports scene, like Pokimane.
Right. Okay.
Like, you stream this Valorant
watch
tournament.
Parties and stuff.
Yes,
Right.
So it's the rise of that at the moment, which is doing wonders for views, but and then viewership converts to monetization via sponsorship and ads, right? But ads aren't being received in the context they're meant to be received when it goes through a co-streamer, I assume. If there's a big, you're watching Blast, for example, and there's a big Betway activation, if I'm speaking over it and I've got the stream on mute at that time, and you don't get to see, I don't know, the two players interacting in the activation or whatever, maybe they're not quite getting the value they were promised. Like that's murky waters as well, I feel. So it might be good for viewership, but might actually be detrimental for the sponsorship based on the viewership, which seems like counterproductive, that's another thing worth keeping an eye on, I suppose, but it doesn't really solve the issue for me, which is a lot of missing revenue in esports right now. I say missing revenue, we don't have it to miss it, but there's a lot we could unlock, I feel. But you've got to get past the key points, and one of them is like, who the fuck's going to watch something on television where you can just watch it for free on Twitch? Which is what you're saying. We get used to watching it for free, and we're very habitual creatures as a rule, anyway, right? If I've got Twitter up and Discord up and just Twitch up, that's so much better than having to I'll just go in my settee, watch telly, and that's it. It's not going to work. And if you're a CS:GO fan, chances are it's never going to get on telly unless it's TV2 in Denmark, because they've got some bollocks because it's terrorist themes and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if Overwatch would be classed as too violent for television at certain times, because there's quote unquote killing that goes on and shooting and all this kind of stuff. Really, you're allowed to watch people get each other in arm bars and punch each other in the face until they're knocked out. Literally, you're encouraging them to knock them unconscious. That's not too violent, but when it comes to diva, teabagging or something like that, it's like, no, that's too far.
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it? So do you reckon for something like Counter-Strike, they'd have to do it past a certain time? Because I know they're the rules, obviously, in the UK. I don't know what it's like in America and other places, but you can only, what is it, UFC and things like that, you can only show on TV after 9 o'clock or something.
I imagine certain language can only be used after a certain time and stuff as well. I think that's the case in the UK, right?
Right, okay.
Certain shows can't have swearing until maybe past 9.
Oh yeah,
9 something, right? So I don't know. The thing is, the selling point, I feel, for localized or national media rights. So say TV2 Denmark, for example, the real selling point there is, if you're in Denmark, you get to listen to the entire stream in Danish, because they'll have their own people in there. Presumably, as long as they're not just literally showing the same feed, which they won't be, they'll have their own talent there commentating and hosting and stuff, right? So everything's localized in your language. It might be people that you know and are familiar with, versus say you don't like Launders and Scrawny or something. I don't know why you wouldn't, but say you don't there's maybe a benefit there to, I know these people, it's entirely in my language, it's better than having to watch it with subtitles or listening in English, because half of esports is in English, so maybe that's a benefit, and that's the only real one I can think of. If you prefer the experience because it's tailored to you on TV via TV2 Denmark, or however many other TV linear broadcasting companies that are in esports right now, that's the only real benefit I can actually think of.
Yeah,
I know you can't turn back on Twitch, you can't rewind or anything, which is fucking insane, by the way, that you can't even do that like you can on YouTube. But there's still more flexibility with what you do on Twitch and online, I should say, on online platforms. So I don't really see the 100%. Selling points to watch it on television.
No, me neither.
I don't know. I also don't know the statistics on demographics of people who watch television still. But my grandma watches a lot of tennis on television. I don't own a television. I'm the esports demographic much more than my grandma. So, how many of us my age and younger, because I'm old in esports years at 27, how many of us don't even own a television or use it to watch just Netflix or YouTube on there? It's a hard sell.
You need to go to where they are, don't you? To where esports fans are. That was one of the solutions that I've got, is it's more appropriate to do esports on OTT, over the top streaming platforms, because you get, I was reading a really good article on this, which we can put in the description box or something maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, things like, so for example, Dota 2, like the international streams, and it's not just Dota 2, it's like loads of titles will have, you'll be the ESL or PGL, whoever, might be streaming for like 9 hours during the day, like during a major or something. And it's like, unless it's like on demand in some way on Sky or on whatever, that's going to be difficult to do on linear TV as well. So like, it's just more appropriate the way the streams are structured, and obviously habits of esports fans. It'd be more appropriate to do it on the streaming platforms.
I agree entirely. Yeah, as you say, meet them where they are, and they're online, mate. So like, I can't see a world in which Meteorites plays any significant part in esports when it comes from linear companies and just television companies. I don't see a world in which that happens. So then you have to turn your focus to the other platforms we've got online. But first, I think it may be worth just giving a bit of insight into how important media rights are in traditional sports. Just quickly, I should have done this at the beginning, really, but so in the Premier League, media rights are the largest driver of revenues by absolute far. Then it's sponsors, and it's match day revenue, say tickets and food and everything else that goes along with actually watching it. In the NBA, the previous season or the ongoing season, I can't remember which, it was $2 billion revenue from media rights, which is more than sponsorship revenues. They were looking for a record of $1.5 billion revenues from sponsorships that same season. So like their record for sponsorships would be 1.5, and they're already at 2 for media rights. And then in the NFL, it's the most viewed sport in the US, I believe, and it's got deals through to 2033, if I read it correctly, with Amazon, CBS, ESPN, Fox, and NBC. You know what I mean? And it's the largest driver of revenue there. And obviously, as the Super Bowl and everything that goes on there, the amount of people that watch. So, like, basically, in all of the biggest sports and the biggest leagues, media rights are the biggest deals there. But you're also seeing more and more sports now coming to the online world and going like doing deals with Twitch and stuff, right? So I think like the NBA maybe had some sort of deal with Twitch, and I think probably F1. I wouldn't be surprised if it had, because it's quite a forward-thinking like sport now. You know, so like they're starting to come to us instead of trying to get us to go to them.
Everything's kind of moved. That's what they reckon, isn't it? Like in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, everything will be moving towards digital anyway. So I think the NFL signed a deal with someone for like the next 10 years for like, I think it's like 11 billion or something. It might have been Fox or CBS or something like that. And I think like the CEO of that company, that broadcaster, whoever it was, said that it gives them security because that's where people watch the NFL typically, but it also gives them the flexibility to start experimenting with digital, which is really interesting because that's where it's going. And like, you know, I've seen Tim the Tapman and Nick Merckx and stuff stream like NFL games on Twitch now and watch-alongs and things like that. So they're definitely dipping their toe in because they know that's where it's going. So I do think like overall, not to get to the end too quick or anything like that, but I think just because of that, because everything's going to be shifting to digital, esports will figure it out. It's just really interesting to think about how it will. You know what I mean? Like, how will it actually get there?
I'm not as convinced that it will figure it out.
Really?
Because as we say, it depends on company by company basis. And basically the argument you have to make is other platforms are going to come up and want some of these esports events. So they're going to put money on the table to say, hey, stop broadcasting on Twitch. You come over to our platform, right? It's a very hard argument as things stand, and I don't know if it'll change, to try and convince someone to go away from Twitch, which is just where everyone goes to watch anything video game related. It's a very hard argument to do that alone without coughing up a shit ton of money, right? And then the Twitch is just going to be like, well, we don't pay you now. We're not going to pay you in the future for it. Like, you'll come back when you realize your viewership's a lot lower, because this is the place where everyone goes. There's a lot more discoverability options and just naturally on Twitch than there are on a Mixer or a Facebook or something, right? And we actually saw that in 2018. I think it was Facebook bought like the exclusive rights to ESL CS:GO and was broadcasting it, and fans fucking hated it. Like, admittedly, the platform wasn't great. It wasn't quite up to scratch with what they were used to, but I think it was somewhat short-sighted, but it's to be expected that they kicked up so much of a fuss that it went non-exclusive when like renegotiation period came up like maybe a year later or something, right? They were like, okay, we'll keep it on Facebook. We're also going back to Twitch or YouTube or whatever else. And I say it's short-sighted by the fans because they don't realize like that actually benefits everyone in the ecosystem when there are companies willing to come in and pay money to stream these matches. Because if Twitch really wants ESL CSGO events, they're going to cough up some money to try and combat YouTube and Facebook and everything, right? And that drives the money up higher, which is good for those who own the IP. It's good for the tournament organizers, partner teams in like the Louvre agreement and stuff. They get revenue shares, which is good for them, which could then feed down into bonuses or higher salaries to players, which makes you know what I mean? Like it benefits everyone who's actually got skin in the game in esports. You know, it's only those who don't have skin in the game in esports that at the moment they get to dictate things, you know? Like those fans the other day, like one fan wrote a twit longer to Fnatic, just like decimating its entire being, like addressed it to Sam Matthews, the CEO, and then everyone shared it and everyone's like, yeah, this is fucking sick, yeah. And it's like, fuck me, lads, you don't have to pay for shit. You can consume everything Fnatic for free. You know what I mean? Like, but like they're not happy with what they're getting for free. So good luck fucking selling them out.
Yeah, true. I know. Yeah,
you know. But yes, I just wanted to demonstrate or illustrate how important meteorites are in traditional sports at the moment. And maybe it's a good thing we're not so reliant on it. I don't know, but I can't. I don't know where else we make up the difference of missing that out besides like crypto, which is obviously again a hard sell to esports and gaming fans right now, even if they don't have to do anything. Like Cloud9 are not trying to actually sell anything crypto related. They're just like they're doing an educational kind of focused activation with their partner, and the fans are going mental just because they're aligned with a brand and partnered with a brand, even if they're not actually pushing anything upon them. So I don't know if it is a good thing we're not too reliant on meteorites because like we're online and you can just watch it anywhere and clip in real time, put it on social media. It's all digital. It's all cool. We need to make it up somehow, I feel, and I don't know where that comes from.
No, neither do I. I think, that's the thing. I feel like as opposed to trying to make up for that missing revenue in other places, I don't think is necessarily sustainable because like a lot of the sponsorship, that's not as valuable if there's no media rights because it broadcasts to kind of less people. I don't know. It's a super complex thing. I feel like media rights is the gaping hole that needs to be sorted. And like we were saying before, it's media rights have moved a lot slower than predicted, haven't they? There's a new Newzoo report yesterday,
which I've got the data for the past 4 years, so 2019 to 2022, where I can reel off 3 different like estimates they produced, and I'll do it like year by year, one thing at a time, just quickly. So they estimated esports would have a total audience, which is enthusiasts and like casual viewers per se. In 2019, it would be 454 million. In 2020, it would be 495 million people. In 2021, it would be 474 million. So it's actually gone down into 2021, even though esports is growing. And then in 2022, we're apparently going to reach 532 million people. So trending slowly in the right direction. But that does seemingly spit in the face of all of the grifters on LinkedIn who said esports was booming because of COVID. That doesn't suggest that whatsoever. And the next one is total revenues. So like total revenue generated in the industry. 2019, 1.1 billion. 2020, 1.1 billion. 2021, 1.1 billion. 2022, 1.38 billion. That's what's predicted there, right? And then the last one, the media rights revenue, which I find really interesting, is obviously pertinent to what we're discussing here. 2019, $251 million revenue generated from media rights estimated. 2020, 185 million. 2021, 192 million. 2022, 207 million. So we've actually gone down like 44 million between 19 and 22.
So all of those figures are from the most recent report that came out yesterday.
From their 4
reports.
They're
different predictions.
Yeah, so like I went to each year, the 2019 stats is from the 2019 report, so like their state of play at the time. You have to pay like, and I'm not paying for Newzoo data. Get like each year they do like a 4 or 5 year forecast ahead.
Yeah,
but even that I didn't find it too illuminating at that point. But just interesting how what they're estimating is like revenue goes up quite a bit between 2019 and 2022, and that's basically because of like crypto sponsors, like 210 million deal between TSM and FTX, obviously over 10 years, stuff like that. But like Meteorites has got, as I say, gone down $44 million in their estimations between 2019 and 2022.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to point out as well that, like, I think it's either from a 2018 or 2019 Newsy report. They predicted that by 2021, I believe, that Meteorites would be worth about 400 mil.
Okay.
And in, I think, the 2020 report, the new prediction for the same year was like less than 200 million. So like they predicted it. So basically the revamped prediction was less than half of what the initial prediction was. So basically Meteorites are moving a lot slower than people thought they would.
Yeah, so maybe there was like one good deal in 2018 or 2019, which was so big it made them think like, oh, here we go. We have to include that in our forecasts and with that in mind.
Yeah.
Where it's actually just a one-off or didn't quite pay off or something, Maybe it was the Facebook ESL deal, who knows?
Yeah.
God. So Newzoo, which gets cited probably the most in the entire industry, especially by people outside of the industry for some reason. If you look at what they estimate for each year, then it paints out actually a rather bleak picture, and the explosive growth that everyone cites about esports is non-present in any like facet that matters. Sponsorship money going up, that's expected, but like media rights revenue has actually gone down year on year effectively, and viewership is creeping up, but like that's as I say, a mixture of enthusiasts and like casual viewers. So like that could just be a one-off person, someone just like trying to watch Warzone and realizes, oh, there's a Warzone tournament on, I'll just give that a bez.
Yeah.
And then watch for an hour and realizes, I'm never going to watch that again. I prefer just watching Tim the Tapman or Doctor Disrespect or something,
Yeah.
So it's not flattering, mate.
Yeah, no, it's not. And so and the industry is still kind of, as you were saying about sponsorship, it's propped up by sponsorship and like investment, like venture capital. It's still very reliant on those two things, isn't it?
Though, like venture capital is running dry somewhat now. You don't see many big raises anymore.
So that's what I was just going to say. So like, no, it's fine. I wanted to ask you anyway, because like, what was it? There was a period from I swear I saw it was like maybe 2016 to 2018 or something like that, where you saw a load of investment. Yeah. Like loads of people wanting to bet on like, oh, the next fucking Manchester United of esports, whatever. And now it's starting to cool off because, I don't know, the return's not necessarily there, or it's just slowed a little bit.
I think like the Overwatch leagues, like Advent, had a big part to play in like the boom of VC money coming in, right?
Franchising.
It was before like the long-term partnerships in League of Legends, but it was like you pay 20 mil now and then esports is growing so quick, who knows where you'll be. Obviously they'll still say it's a long-term investment, but they're expected to see something in the next 3, 4, 5 years if esports really is growing as much as they say, even with like Rick Fox getting in with FK Fox, which was League of Legends, but you've got the Cronkies and bloody everyone getting in, like the Swansea and are getting into Overwatch League, and they managed to go from like 20 mil to 60 mil for the expansion slots, right? They were charging 60 mil for the expansion slots, according to Jacob Bull's reporting, if I remember correctly. So they managed to sell how many more was it? 6 or 8? Probably, I think 8 slots at 3 times what they were charging initially, like a year after. Insanity how Activision Blizzard have gotten away with it,
Jesus.
And yeah, so obviously a massive influx. Now you don't really see it. I'm trying to think the last big raise I saw, I guess it was like VSPN, which is like a tournament and broadcasting thing over in China. But China's a different ball game when it comes to like Western esports. So of course, like I think they're estimated this year to make up a third of total revenues we see in the entire industry, just from that one country, which makes sense. But also, we can't even trust their viewership. Like when we speak about viewership in the West in esports, we say like excluding China always, because you can't I don't know, account for all the bots. They're just in there, But they're obviously they're like mainstream culture wise. It's so much more accepted than it is over here. You see it a little bit in like Copenhagen with Astralis. Like they basically walk through the streets of Copenhagen and they're as famous as the football players that play for the national team. But outside of that, you don't really see it in the West. I can't imagine like Smooya when he was playing for Fnatic going to St. mobbed. You know what I mean? I can't imagine that ever being the case. So like they're just it's a different ball game over there, and
yeah, it is.
I don't know why it's gone like that. To be fair, I don't know why they've been so quick to adopt everything and embrace it. And
Yeah, I don't know, mate. Gaming culture is just huge over there, and apparently you get
yeah,
like elderly people like gamers technically because they play games on their phone and like at home and stuff. So like, I don't know. It's just a cultural difference, isn't it? Who
yeah.
knows why?
Yeah,
Why
but
it's like that?
like VSPN over there, I think they failed to IPO in Hong Kong, but they raised like 100 mil. I'm pretty sure,
Mm,
and that's the last big one I saw. Obviously, that is fucking huge. But outside of that, maybe like maybe 100 Thieves or something
mm,
in the round after the Drake and Scooter Braun one, where it's like artists fund management or whatever it's called. I think they're probably the last one, but like you don't really see it anymore because that's why they're all going public now, like Overactive Media and
mm.
Guild and Astralis, and there's probably more that I'm forgetting, but like that's the new trend now. It's like, okay, we need to go public, and then look at the stock, look at the share
Yeah,
price of
man.
these companies that are going public. I would implore people after this or even during this to go look at esports entertainment groups, stock performance, share performance, just
Oh,
quickly.
is it really bad? Yeah.
It's a madness. If you look back to when they first started as to where they are now,
Bloody hell.
it says a lot, mate. And they've been obviously partnering with all the sports teams and stuff, which they think
Yeah,
has
yeah,
some sort of impact, but evidently not, you know. But
yeah.
yeah, so it's in a weird spot now, isn't it, where I think there's a course correction and people understand that we're at the point now where we're not meeting the targets that we had set for ourselves or the lofty
Mm-hmm.
estimations we'd believed in. I say we tentatively because I didn't ever really believe in that stuff. Nothing really pointed towards it being the case. But like us as
Mm-hmm.
an industry, I think now it's kind of like, okay, yeah, we understand where we're at. Like there's a long way to go still. We shouldn't get as excited as we have been getting about like profitability anytime soon. I know a couple of orgs claim
Mm.
it, but they'll never prove it. And also,
Yeah.
like I've seen stuff, especially on one CEO is very happy to say he's profitable, but like I've seen stuff that suggests otherwise, like private documents from within the
Mm.
company that suggest otherwise. So it's all just smoke up people's asses, which
Yeah.
is, I think, the exact definition of esports. It's smoke up asses. I think that's what it means. But yeah, man. So I think like to roughly sum it up, we've probably got a couple more points, but I would say like Meteorites, I don't know if it is exactly what esports needs, but if not, we need to find something to replace that because like it is
Mm.
pivotal in basically every big sport.
Yeah.
Like it's everything. If they lost the Meteorites deals now in NBA or NFL, like
Yeah.
yeah, it's getting
It'd be
ropey
gone.
on
The
a
product would be gone.
real quick. Exactly, man. So
Yeah.
like it's that important for them, and it's good that we're not relying on them, but also we're not in the we're at the point where we would like to rely on them. To be honest, like if it meant like
Mm-hmm.
things are sustainable, you know. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
there's a challenge because it's unlikely to go linear.
Yeah.
Is not really the selling points, and I think it goes against the trend of viewership, like linear versus online. It doesn't make sense. So it's not going to go that way. So we need, I assume, if we're making the argument for media rights and broadcast rights, we need platforms to come in and rival Twitch. And there's only one in my
Yeah.
mind that could do it, and that's because it
YouTube.
already is rivaling it in some aspects. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, they've got obviously the VOD shit down, and they're doing all right on streaming now. Like the experience there isn't too bad. It was
Mm-hmm.
shoddy at the beginning of the CDL when that deal started, but
Mm.
it's not looking too bad now. So I think most like streaming and broadcast platforms want to be YouTube anyway because like it's just the king. I imagine Netflix would take as much as it can from YouTube if it could. Like, look, it's even getting into games and stuff now, right? So I see YouTube as being anything that can take down Twitch, but then it would just be another viewership monopoly on esports tournaments anyway. So we need the mixers and other that ones that I can't think of. Oh god, see, they're not even big and significant enough. You know, there's literally YouTube,
Yeah.
Facebook ish. They tried it, and Twitch. That's it. You know,
Maybe
mad one.
like a kind of a brand new novel with a company, a brand new streaming platform with like a novel kind of economic model and different solutions to this. Like, because I think there's a company, I plug these all the time, but it's just because I think they're a cool company. But like, there's a company called Recast. They're not going to do this, but they're like a streaming company, like an over the top streaming company, right? And so they essentially give users, normal like fans on the platform, let's say fans of Man City, because I think Man City have signed a deal with them. Fans of Man City sign up and they get a certain amount of coins. They're called casts in the app, right? So you can get more either by buying them or by watching ads, for example. So this is a really important point. So Man City is what's known as a publisher on that platform, yeah. So they can go on there, they can put something up and charge like 50 casts, like 50 in-app coins. A fan can use those coins, buy them, that money goes straight to the publisher, and they can just get those coins back by watching ads or buying them, whatever they want.
So it's OnlyFans for sports.
Not sure about that. Maybe. I've never used OnlyFans. Wait. So I think, like, I don't know, that, like I said, they're not going to do that, but that's a novel idea of like how to approach, like, let's say a tournament organizer or like whatever was on that platform and they charged a certain amount of casts to stream like a CSGO major or something. People could pay to watch, either pay to watch it or pay to watch extra stuff on top of it or around it, like interviews or whatever, or interactive things. Yeah. I don't know, just something interactive where it's different. It's on a streaming platform. It's a bit of a novel idea. That kind of solves the monetization issue a little bit.
If enough people pay.
Yeah, if enough people pay. Yeah, but then, well, that's the thing. It's not, so you wouldn't actually, like, fans wouldn't have to actually pay necessarily. They just have to get the coins by, like, I think you can do like questionnaires and stuff. You get the coins by watch ads. Anyway, this is like a fucking, it's very peripheral.
Making them own that shit though. Like,
yeah. And they're targeting like niche leagues and sports. So it's just not, they're never going to do this. I'm just like, that's a cool model that's interesting to me that another company might take and be like, right, how can we just completely change the way fans and broadcasters interact? Like there's something more interactive that can be done, whatever. That's like one possible solution. I guess incentivizing fans to spend money during a broadcast as well on things like in-game items, which is like another fairly cool idea. But again, it's quite peripheral, isn't it? Like you're watching League of Legends and you can, there's a fucking flash sale on. You can spend $2 on this new skin that usually I don't know how much they cost. What is it, like a tenner usually? Something like that.
I don't play games, mate, anymore. Too old for that shit.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played. I played League of Legends like once, I think. Yeah, and so things like that encourages people to spend money on things that they get back in game, which I guess is like one of the good things about a game and about an esport is that there's instant feedback. Like you can watch it, and then as soon as you've watched it, you're like, or while you're watching it, you can go and play the game itself. So like maybe there's something there, but again, like I don't know how that's not big enough to solve this problem. So like. It's tough, man. Like it's I
do think microtransactions are going to unlock a lot, though. If you're like, we've got team skins now, which is good. It's in some games, obviously, COD like they're fucking shoddy, but like there's so much they could do around like the competitive scene in game, in most games. I'm sure to like encourage people to buy, right. And you see it with TI every year. They can make it happen. Like if you do something in game, which is attractive enough, like it can benefit the competitive scene, and they maybe want to see where their money's going towards, so they go check it out. You know, I don't know if that's unique to the Dota community. I've never been part of it, never will be. But that's an interesting thing. And obviously, the in-game advertisement now that we see on the Rift in League of Legends, where they'll have like MasterCard advertise and such. And I think Rocket League are going to do it as well. Maybe they already have like Snickers in like the stadium and stuff, or maybe just outside of it. Like that's another area. So I think like in-game related things is an area that we need to keep an eye out for. You know, not saying they're all going to be on the blockchain and stuff, because I think that's many years away if it ever gets to that point, before fans will even embrace that shit. But I think microtransactions and in-game digital items will be huge in the future, which may help remedy the missing Meteorites conundrum that we've got right now. May help a little bit. But there's obviously a glaring hole here.
And like one thing we've not even really said is like this is all based on the assumption that a given esport is going to stick around, you know, because like they change all the time. There's new games coming out all the time. Who's to say like I don't know how many of Counter-Strike's viewers Valorant has taken. I don't actually think it's been that much. I think Valorant's just kind of done its own thing, probably taken more from Overwatch or something like that. I don't really know. But yeah, like what happens if a game like Valorant, for example, if that just renders it's not going to, because Counter-Strike's amazing, but if it just renders Counter-Strike useless and like that game's finished, all the pros move to Valorant, and Counter-Strike's just signed this big deal with fucking YouTube to, for the next 3 years.
Yeah, or 10 years.
Yeah,
you
can't
exactly.
Sign
a long-term deal like that.
You can't. It's too insecure, and like the rug might just get swept out from under you. So
it's Gears of War, issue. That's ending right now. Like obviously it's not huge anyway, but like that shows that it can happen, and there can be like PUBGs which had their moments. And they're still around, but they're nowhere near the level like they were at in terms of viewership and participation and stuff. So, like, you're not getting the perceived value unless you account for that in the future down the line with your Meteorites deals, which you need like Nostradamus or something to be involved in the negotiations there to be able to see into the future to even go like, well, you're actually going to lose 25% viewership in the next 2 years, so we're going to offer you this amount. Like, it's impossible. So, like, that's why, short-term deals are probably here to stay for quite a while. You can maybe bet on CSGO having some longevity. League of Legends, I feel like it'll be around for a while, but like, as you say, it just takes one game to come through and fuck it all up, eh? And like, if a new MOBA comes out and it's just the best MOBA ever, like Dota 2 and League could be in the mud entirely, and then all of that money, all of that investment into the competitive scenes, it's ropey.
Yeah. So definitely, bro. I think in conclusion, like from my perspective, like it's a big complicated thing, and I don't pretend to like have major answers to that question. There are obviously, I feel like I said before, mate, I am quite optimistic. There'll be people working in media now that will come up with some kind of unique solution, and then that'll lead to something else. Like I do believe that will happen. Like I said, if there's enough care about esports, about specific titles as well, like which I think there is, and there's going to be for the foreseeable. They'll figure something out, but I don't pretend to have any major like solutions or anything like that.
Well, one thing I notice is a lot of people, and we'll wrap it up in a second, a lot of people say like there's no point bringing up problems if you haven't got solutions, and I'm like, well, I think like bringing light to problems,
I think so,
and having conversations around the problems is actually productive. So,
Agreed.
Some people, I can think of one person, his face is in my mind right now, will probably message me and be like, "Oh, you said a lot and didn't actually try and fix it at all." And it's like, maybe that's not my job. Maybe my job is to put the light on it, and then the smart people watching can figure out how to do it. I've never claimed I'm smart. I'm just brave enough to chat shit online. You know what I mean? That's all it is.
I like that, mate. That's how we should see ourselves. That's Cyberathletics. We just bring attention to the fucking problem and let the smart people figure it out.
Exactly. I've never claimed to be good at that shit. But I'm fine telling you what's bad. I just won't be able to make it better. You know, but right, so that's number 3 in the books.
Subscribe and like if you like.
If they don't, then they're not welcome back for another.
You don't have to come back. No point being cruel and disliking. Just leave.
That's true. Though they can't see the dislikes anymore, so like it's almost like it doesn't exist really. So
it doesn't really matter,
does that still count as engagement in the back end?
I don't know. I mean, it definitely will count as engagement. Whether or not it'll like help push the video, who knows?
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like absolutely obliterate. Make love to that subscription button. I want you to rub up gently against the like button and then tap it on the ass quite hard afterwards. So you get it warmed up and then you completely spank that like button and then rewatch this whole video again and do it again on another account.
Nice.
All right. Cheers for watching, everyone.
Peace. Bye-bye.